Hey everyone, Jihad here. Basically, I joined the program literally March 31st. Is there a 30 or 31st? Or March 31st, 2021. The reason I did that was because on LinkedIn, I wanted to show that I started Talent Stacker in March, and I was trying to get as many certifications as possible. So it hasn't even been like not even all of March, and I just started my full-time role as a Salesforce admin this week on Monday. Fortunately, with Snapchat, I didn't have any hands-on experience with Salesforce before that, but I did have some help with just having some consulting experience, some BA experience. But again, nothing really hands-on. They wanted me to go that hands-off project manager BA route. Like, hey, stay away from configuration. Like, why are you even doing that? You're good at this stuff. And that was a bit boring. So I unfortunately was impacted by the pandemic. And I was looking for a while, and I decided, hey, you know what? I really like being a little bit more hands-on, and so I joined March 31st, and my first day was on the 7th. Although I had the offer even a few weeks before that, and it's just been an amazing experience. I actually had 3 offers at the end of the whole thing. I know there was other people who got more offers even faster than me, but I'll take it. That's no problem. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Happy to answer any questions. I have some tips also, but we'll probably get to those a little bit later. Just happy to help out.
I do have one question before we start taking questions from the group. And you mentioned something there, and you said you didn't have any hands-on experience. Now, how did you communicate that, or how did that come up during these interview processes? Is that something you were super transparent about, or was it something you tried to shield against a little bit? Could you talk us through, that talking point?
Yeah, and it might be different for how different people approach it. I would say approach it however you're most comfortable, however is most natural. The way I approach it is, look, I don't have hands-on experience, but I have this, ancillary experience that's very related to Salesforce. I'm kind of familiar with Salesforce either as an end user or as a BA, and because I want to make this pivot strategically, I have been doing XYZ to bridge that gap. So what have I been doing? I got my certifications. I've been answering questions in the community. I am now a top 80 in the world with answering questions, which is a great talking point. I joined Talent Stacker Salesforce Career Development Program. I added that to my resume as well as on my LinkedIn. And then I also am volunteering for Upward Scholars, a nonprofit based out of Los Angeles. Every week I'm meeting with the executive director, making updates in Salesforce. And they specifically asked me, what are you doing for them? What is your hands-on experience? And if they said, okay, literally one of the questions was straight out, all right, I see you have this Talent Stacker experience. Don't give me BA experience. I don't care about that. How much actual hands-on experience do you have? And I didn't lie. I'm like, honestly, since March. Like, that's what I said. I'm like, since April, that's when I actually started, getting hands-on experience. And I think that they appreciated that I was open and honest. And honestly, if I lied, I would have been freaking out because, like, dude, I just told these people that I am some rock star admin. I lied my way into the position, and I would have been like just freaking out right now. So I'm happy that I was upfront, and that's just natural for me. That's how I approach it.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's good advice too. For people out there, I know there can be a bit of a temptation to maybe, add a little bit on top. And it's important to sound confident, and it's important to make sure that they don't think that you're insecure about your ability. But at the same time, it's also great to be honest, because not just for ethical reasons, but because if you go into 3rd, 4th round interviews, or you sit through something like, we can talk about this in a little bit, how you went through a pretty intensive interview process, those things can come out. You've got to keep the talk track, and you got to remember what you said last time, and you got to continue that, misleading information forward, where it's so much easier just to be honest, but to bring confidence with that honesty. So I do appreciate that.
Could I actually add one more thing that popped into my head? One of the things that really helped me was, even though I did not solve maybe BA wise, I did some things that were cool with Salesforce, although I didn't do anything hands-on, but I told them about times when I solved difficult problems and I had no basis at all. So for example, in my last job, my manager brought me on. He had no Power BI experience. He's like, dude, I kind of hired you to kind of learn Power BI and, build all these reports. I had no Power BI experience. I never really work that much with databases and stuff. And I had to learn the system, create a report that literally nobody could build for 2 years, and get that out and approved and put in front of execs all within like a quarter. So me talking about that story and really digging into the fact that, yes, I think everybody's kind of done this to some way, shape, or form. Yes, I don't have this particular experience, but I am really good at learning. And this is an example where something really complex, and I was able to figure it out under a time crunch. A small company, I didn't have like specific training that I went to a trainer and they paid all this money. I figured it out on my own, and I plan on taking that over here. And I'm really interested in this. I can do that. So that's kind of how I also approached it. So they know that I'm smart enough to figure things out, hopefully.
Yeah, that's right. And for anyone who maybe didn't quite hear that, it's actually a really good technique, and you need to be careful with making cliche statements like I'm a lifelong learner, I love technology, these kind of things. But you'll hear what he just said, and that's that he had a story to back it. So when you just say I'm a lifelong learner, or I'm really good at figuring things out, it's okay to say those things as long as you follow it up by backing it up with an actual story of how you did that, because a lot of those can fall majorly flat and sort of make you look like you're fluffing, your experience when you just say, I'm really good at learning stuff. Next question. Like, that's not good enough. You gotta give me something here. Okay. Yeah. So this is a question that I know you've talked about some in the group, but it's great to sort of consolidate it here. Walk us through this one. What was that hiring process like? I know, and I think answer that for your current role, but I mean, maybe for some of the other offers you got as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I was fortunate to have 3 offers at the end. The process was different. I'm going to say 3.5 because there was one place that I interviewed like 8 times, and they kept on telling me, "Oh, we really want you. We really want you. We're just trying to find the right spot for you." But they literally told me, "Look, you're hired. We're just trying to find the right project for you." So I'm going to count that as 3.5. And when I told them that I got a few offers, they're like, "Oh, we're going to send you an offer today." And I'm just like, hey, appreciate it. Hopefully, maybe another time. Although, so I had an insurance company offer. I had an offer with a transportation company, and then of course I had with tech with Snap. So just overall, for 2 of those, there were literally only 2 interviews. A first round, which was technical, and a second round. The second round was, with the transportation company, was relatively, hey, meet the CTO. He kind of just wants to get an idea of your background and everything. And then for the insurance company, I think I had 3 interviews, but that third interview was also like, I want to say like 3 hours or 2.5 hours. So again, wasn't too crazy. A lot of the stuff, guys, go to MemPro. Justin has like a whole bunch of different interviews, and I would watch those interviews before I went into my interviews. And guess what? A lot of the questions that they asked, I was prepared for because I saw Anita answering them. I saw somebody else answering them already. So I kind of had an idea of like, hey, you know what, this might be something that's, good to talk about, or even maybe I should review Who Sees What, the security series, because I know they're going to ask about security. So that's kind of how I approached it. And it was just, it's in MemPro. It's over here. If you have questions, ask the Facebook group. But yeah, nothing earth shattering there. Just, good process.
All right, so let's hop into another question here. So did you start looking for applying for jobs before you were Salesforce certified, or did you take a specific approach to that?
You know what? I specifically, I think, tried to get the certification first. And again, I'm a big David Liu fan, so I was trying to get 5 certifications, right? But I only ended up getting the 1. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll be able to get another 4 or 5 within like a few weeks. It took me another few months to get like the advanced admin, and I'm like, you know what? I really need to start applying. And I wasn't gonna start applying until, Brad, you yourself had like a video on YouTube that was like, guys, you only need 1 certification to start applying. And I'm like, wait, I really thought it was 5, Yeah. So it's like, okay, if I only need 1 and I have 2, maybe that's good enough. And every time on LinkedIn, my feed is full of, oh, I am now 16x certified. I am now, 8x certified. I'm like, what the heck? I have, so much going on here. So I did want to make sure I was certified, having those 2. And I went with the advanced admin because David Liu said that was, an A-tier certification. So I personally waited for 2, but again, that was before I kind of got into the group and all that stuff, and I think it definitely did help. But of course, it's like, how would I have known it? Maybe if I started with 1, it would have been enough because of a lot of other factors. So that's kind of how I approached it.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's smart. Yeah, you wouldn't believe that video about you only need 1 certification. That was the one I got the most like LinkedIn messages basically telling me it was blasphemy. They were like, I had so many people saying like, you can't tell people that, you're going to ruin their careers. And I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow because so many people have already gone down that path. And then it really hurts for them to hear that they didn't necessarily have to do that. Now, I don't think certifications are a bad route to go, but it's like inside this program, like, again, going back to the actual modules and lessons, look at all that information. Like, there's so much to learn when it comes to getting a job. Like, if you're trying to learn Salesforce and become more proficient on specific topics, certifications are a really tangible way to prove that to yourself and to employers. But for most people, they're trying to land a job. And if you've already done LinkedIn to a T and you're already networking, you're already engaging, you already know all the strategies to how to apply for jobs with impact, you already know all the interview tips, and you feel like you've given a ton of energy into preparing for interviews and being ready, and now you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs wondering what's next. Okay, sure, go get a 2nd, 3rd certification if that's what you feel compelled to do. But for most people, they've done very little on LinkedIn. They've done little to no interview prep at all. They have no strategy when they're applying for jobs. They just go at it 100 a day, whatever they can fit into the day, just apply. And then they start thinking, I guess I need another certification. Mm-hmm. And it's the logical thought, but it takes a lot. I mean, everyone here knows, anyone looking at this knows, it is a lot of hours to get a certification.
Yep.
And I'm not convinced that the marginal gain from preparing for a 2nd and 3rd certification is as valuable as the marginal gain from preparing for interviews, preparing to apply for jobs, and networking on LinkedIn and things like that. So I caught a lot of flack for that one, but I'm happy to see that it at least resonated with you.
Actually, and I'll just add one more thing. Not even just the marginal gain certification versus LinkedIn, guys. The internal project, mm-hmm. being able to say that I had an actual use case that I built out, being able to say that, hopefully you guys are able to find some type of actual volunteer organization as well. I did both. And I'm like, hey, I did process builder. Hey, I did, I helped out with security. Hey, I, led client sessions. And so when somebody's thinking, can I put this guy or girl, in front of my constituent, in front of the people that we're going to be servicing, will they be happy with this person? Will he or she be able to solve problems? Yes. And here are tangible examples of how I've done so. This is what I've done in real life. That, I think, was actually the most, probably like the most important thing of joining, because being able to say you have the real world experience and having that actual experience and, not having to fluff it. It's like, dude, I actually did this. And, I have this. I think that's just, do not underestimate what you get from that. Really try to get a volunteer project and make sure you do good on the internal project.
Excellent. Yep. I would agree. Yeah. It's there's so many little things that you can put together, and you can put the puzzle together however you want, but it's that in one way you're sort of forcing the pieces to fit, and then, some other approaches, they fit a little bit easier. So, did you get a lot of technical interview questions, and do you remember any specifically? And if you don't specifically, maybe specific topics that tended to come up, and how did you approach that? Because I've heard Justin Ducks talk a good bit about early on in the interview, taking some of those more generic questions,
right,
and then sharing a lot of your technical experience through those generic questions. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then somehow bending that into talking about your technical experience so that they won't even ask the technical questions. Mm-hmm. And I know that's sort of like an aside sort of pro tip, but for you, what was that like for you? Were you getting a lot of technical questions? And I'm sure you did at some point with all these interviews.
There was I think 16, I want to say 13 questions that I remembered and I posted. over there. So I'm trying to find it if I can, but it's there. I remember because I was trying to share my experiences as we were going. So if I had an interview, I'm like, hey guys, this is kind of stuff that I just got out of it. So if anybody wants to look at some sample questions, here's what it is. My brain was totally fried, so I didn't remember as much, just stuff that kind of stuck out. But the way I approached it was, again, if you studied for the admin exam, a lot of that stuff is going to be right off the top of your head. Stuff like, what's the difference between a lookup and a master detail? That's in the Justin video as well. What's the difference? What are the different types of relationships? And I was able to rattle those off because I had an idea that was going to be coming up. Again, it's in there. There's a post that I have with literally like 13 questions, and again, if you go through those videos, if you go through, like, you're pretty familiar with the exam guide for admin, it's not going to go too much crazier than that. So I would just recommend brushing up on admin stuff. Like, look at the big weightings. Like, security is huge, so it's like, hey, let me watch the Who Sees What series. Process optimization or just automation. So like, hey, what can you do with process builder versus flow versus workflow, stuff like that. So just look at the exam guides and probably be like, you know what, I think I have a good feel of this. And even basic stuff, like somebody asked me, look, talk to me as a 5-year-old, what does Salesforce do? And I kind of defaulted to, I know Brad kind of goes into this, I think, in MemPro, but I remember David Liu was talking about what is Salesforce. And Salesforce is basically like a souped up Excel sheet. And I literally basically said that. And it just made it easier for me to talk about, hey, tabs are kind of like, your workbook. And then, you could get into the workbook and, you can have all of these different records in there. So yeah, that's kind of how I would approach it. And make sure to look it up because I have a bunch of questions that I shared in Facebook.
We've got a few more questions here, and these are great questions. I mean, I feel like we're getting tremendous insight into what works, and I think this is going to continue to get better as more and more members learn from past members. And that's why it's so important that I think sometimes people might look at these events and they go, we're just doing a Q&A session with another member. Like, okay, it's like it's next level. Like, these are people who have already done what you're trying to accomplish. You might want to listen to what they're talking about because they went through the exact same paces that you're going through and they found success. So here's another question. Were your interviews remote or in person? And then now that you have landed a job, are you remote, in person, a little bit of both? So yeah, what is that like?
Yeah, everything has been remote. I think that, maybe in 2022 or something, I think things are maybe going to be opening up. We don't have like any exact dates, but everybody's remote right now. I think that's for most of the people. Again, I think different industries are probably a little different. If you're maybe more of a, finance or insurance, they might actually want that because I know I've heard that, those industries are trying to get people to come back into the office. Other industries might be a little bit more lax, and obviously it's company by company, but all the interviews were remote, and I'm currently working remote. But obviously let's see what happens end of this year. I think there is like going to be some type of flex afterwards, but again, that's like what everybody's kind of hearing. So yeah, probably maybe in person later on, but not really sure any definitive dates on like when we have to be or something like that. It's been pretty laid back, but again, I've only been there for like a week. I've just been like onboarding and stuff, so that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, and I'll say, I mean, I don't expect that you'll ever go into an office if you're not now. And my thought, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be true, is that unless you're working for like a manufacturing company where the culture is very in office, people sitting in conference room discussing topics, I imagine that jobs are going to remain very remote going forward, or at least flexible, and probably more up to the employee to decide if you want to come into a workspace or if you want to work from home. Because I'll say the Salesforce market was very remote prior to the pandemic. Like, I've been working from home since 2012, something like that. And so you're going to find that the market was very much remote beforehand. Now, I will say there was a caveat there, and it was like when you land your first job, sometimes they like to sort of gain trust and make sure that you're quality and you understand the companies. And they might have had you come on site for the first 6 months, something like that. But it was always flexible. It was always, like, this will give me a better work-life balance. And you just have to get comfortable with some of those, awkward conversations where you're talking to your manager about, can I work from home some? But I think you'll find right now, and then, going forward, it's going to be, even for first time, entry level roles, I think you're going to find that they're going to be more remote. So here's a question, and I know, Jason, you said never mind, but I think it's a good question, and we can certainly cover it. So it's, what certifications do you find that people are looking for the most? What do you believe is a good next step certification wise? So to the point I made earlier, getting certifications is not a bad thing. There's just a time and a place for it. So we can definitely cover this topic, and yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say on that one.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, I'm going to go to MemPro, because literally, I think you have what are next steps after your admin certification. You have Platform App Builder. You even have PD1. I was thinking, let me get my Advanced Admin, because apparently that, according to David Liu, that had more weight than Platform App Builder. And I'm like, hey, Platform App Builder should be a piece of cake if I can get Advanced Admin. Little did I know that Platform App Builder was harder for me than Advanced Admin. So I personally did, Certified Admin, Advanced Admin, Platform App Builder, and now that kind of starts going into, hey, what is your particular company using more? Maybe are you going to be working more with the sales team, or are you going to be working more with the service team? And that's where you can go in, maybe into the clouds, or you could do marketing. Which, by the way, it's really cool that you have. I think Kalen, if I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering his name, but just talking about marketing cloud and stuff. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can go. But yeah, no, I'm happy to hear your thoughts on this too, Brad.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully you guys can see this, and if not, then afterwards maybe you can zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to hop over here. So this is what I sort of refer to as a certification pathway, and this is how I've broken it out. So what I sort of start at the top and just say, do you want to be a Salesforce Pro? If not, then okay, just go over there. If yes, then you can sort of either start with either one of these. And really these, I typically recommend just sort of doing them at the same time, or once you finish the admin, to sort of start thinking about Platform App Builder, just because there's so much carryover. And even when you go check out the Platform App Builder study guide and you get started on the trails, you'll see that you're probably already more than 50% done with the trails for Platform App Builder. That may change a little bit with the shakeup they're doing on the 23rd, but I don't see that changing too dramatically. Now, what happens next is, what path would you like to pursue first? So this sort of depends on which route you're going. So you'll see right here, if you want to be a W-2 sort of in-house administrator, like we're discussing right now, like being internal at Snapchat, advanced administrator is a good way to go, because if they're hiring you as an administrator or an analyst, they want you to have very good fundamental skills on the platform. And this sort of proves that. Now, if you're saying, I think I might want to be a developer, you can go this route and get the Platform Developer 1. But a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, I got admin, and then advanced administrator wasn't that hard. Like it's much more difficult, but it isn't like, you don't have to be working for 2 or 3 years to get this one. Nope. So a lot of people think going admin, advanced admin, the same would apply to going developer 2. But you see, I've got this big red X over developer 2, because Platform Developer 1's pretty straightforward, like the admin exam. But when you go to Platform Developer 2, you are ramping up to another level. Like, you're not just going to go poke around and get Developer 2 with a couple of focus on force exams or whatnot. And if you do, you are an incredible test taker. And then what I typically say is, if you want to be a consultant, then consider going this route. If you want to be an in-house administrator, you want to be an in-house developer, then go this route. But if you want to be a consultant, these really carry a lot of weight with consulting companies, and they literally say consultant on the back end. And forgive me for these outdated talent stacker logos and certification logos, but the same still applies. And then what I typically tell people is, if you're going the developer route, you can go this way now. But this is sort of what I talked about, where with developer 2, you have to get, a lot of super badges in order to even be allowed to take the exam, plus some projects you have to do on Trailhead to even be allowed to go try the exam. And then if you're going the consultant route, some might argue to skip these two and jump straight into these two. And the reason for that, I'll come down a little bit first. So sharing and visibility designer, we're going pretty deep in the weeds now. Like this is, a couple of years into your career when you're thinking about this. But the reason for this is because when you combine these, you get a free certification. Basically, you automatically become an application architect because you have the prerequisites. And I'll show you the true prerequisite there. So these are some specialist ones, but right here. So once you have platform app builder, sort of one of the easier ones, and platform developer one, the easiest developer cert, you get those other two and you get a 5th certification for free. There is no test for this. You just get that certification. So it's a pretty cool route to go. If you're just looking at certification hoarding, then you can go this route and get 5 certifications pretty quickly. And then you likely will have your admin on top. So you'll be a 6X certified Salesforce professional. And obviously that looks really good on paper. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Hopping back to what we're actually here for, and that's hearing from you. Let me make sure I get the next question. All right, here we go. We did talk about this some. We talked about the position being 100% remote, but what sort of influenced your decision when you're looking at multiple offers, and what were you looking for in a company?
Yeah, so obviously I wanted to go to a place that I feel like I was able to get more hands-on. This was the most hands-on role. The other ones were, one was straight BA. One was BA/admin. This was literally admin, So I didn't want to be binking PowerPoints all day, which is what I was doing a lot of when I was a BA, or, writing requirements documents. I wanted to actually go in, build something, and then hopefully get like a virtual hug, because like, man, you made our life so much easier. That's kind of, the thing that I was going for. And I feel like I had that best opportunity at Snap. Now, again, I know I talked about the, remote or not. Some people will probably stay remote. I might actually go, in person. And I mean, it's LA, it's like, it's La La Land. Like, I've worked in New York. Like, it would be just an amazing experience to kind of live in LA. So, I think for me, it's probably just like a cool adventure and a cool next step. And if you think about the proximity of LA to like all these other like, tech giants, here's the thing. I plan on staying with Snap for a long time. Like I don't intend on moving. They've just been super cool, super accommodating. They want to see me come along. They're not just throwing me to the wolves, which would have been good for me to grow anyway, but they want to make sure that they're bringing me along nicely. And I want to, show my loyalty for that. But at the same time, what's going to look better if, and hopefully not, but if 5 years down the road or something, I'm like, you know what, I need to look at something else. Do I have a better chance of going to a Google from an insurance company, a better chance of going to Google from a transportation company that, is just something in New Jersey, or from a name brand tech company that kind of, once you have that badge on your resume, it's kind of like, man, if he or she were smart enough for Google, he or she is smart enough for me. If he or she was smart enough for Facebook, he or she is smart enough for me. And I think that Snap is like kind of in that territory. So for a lot of reasons, I chose Snap.
I think we've answered really most everything. Repost a question if there's something you feel like we didn't answer. Yeah.
There's also a fourth thing that I think, again, you guys have heard it like probably 1,000 times already, but out of all the tips that I had, another one that we didn't specifically mention was use the community. Like, use the Facebook group. I'm not on Facebook. If you see I should change it, but I am still listed as CEO of Proceed Marketing, like on my Facebook page. I should update it. The only reason I started coming back on Facebook was for this group. And there were so many people that, helped me answer questions. Like even Brad, like I was freaking out, like, hey, what do I do? They need a confirmation that I was here. He helped out with that. I was like, oh, what do I do? I don't know how to solve this problem. Like, and then Hugh came in and said, oh, you could solve this with Flow. Like so many times people help me just think through stuff. And that time when you're lonely or you're like just in your head and you're like, man, I'm really not sure what to do, you could just tag it at Justin, at Bradley, at Anita, or just not even at anyone, just, hey, everyone, I kind of need help. And man, this is just, it's crazy how helpful everybody is. And I'm hoping that I'm able to pay back some of that right now. It's helping some people, but do not underestimate the power of the community. So I'm just going to say that again. I know you guys have heard it 1,000 times, but it's really helped me out a lot.
No, that is so cool, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we've had members, and Anita says, and if you don't know what this term is, like Love RTS Ohana, like some people have asked me, like, what is this Ohana thing? And if you're not inside the Salesforce community, or you're newer to it, you don't really know what that terminology is. But it's just it's this really tight knit community. And yes, there is the Salesforce Ohana, which they've termed. And it really just means that people help each other, and you don't necessarily have to contact support, or you don't have to put in a ticket or a case or wait for your, what number you are in the queue. You are part of the Ohana, and that means other people are going to help you that are already here. They're doing what you're doing. They've seen what you've done. And they've gone through this journey as well. And when we come from the greater Salesforce Ohana into this much smaller Talent Stacker Ohana, it just tightens all the threads. Like, everybody gets what's going on. You have access to the same content. And I've had people come in and they're new to the program, and they'll say, hey, Brad, I've got this question about Trailhead. And I'm like, hey, just post it in the Facebook group. Like, post it in the Facebook group. You are going to get the answer you're looking for. And sometimes they get a little irritated, and they're like, what do you mean post it in the Facebook group? Like, I want an actual answer, not just like guesswork. And I'm like, wait until you get used to what's going to happen in there. Like, once you see that you don't even want to have to deal with me, because I've got to go figure it out for myself. I'm one person. Like, imagine if an entire group of people, you're just like, I have a question, and 10 people rally around you and figure it out for you. And to your point, it's similar in the Trailblazer communities, where you're learning, you're teaching other people by answering questions. Mm-hmm. You are Googling things, you're teaching other people, you're learning to operate in real world questions that people have. And so you're honing your skills and helping somebody else at the same time. That's the Ohana. The Ohana is the fact that you're taking the skills you have, helping other people, and at the same time, it's rewarding you because you're getting better at talking about these topics, or explaining topics, or working through some of these issues. So that really is what it's all about. So yeah, I think that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, anything else that stands out to you that you wish people knew, or you think could benefit?
Yeah. So the other thing that might help was, when you're interviewing with different people, always be your authentic self, but also go on Glassdoor to research the companies and what they're like. Look at the pictures of how people maybe dress and all that other stuff. Because, for example, I remember I asked you, Brad, like, hey, do you think I should wear a suit and a tie for the interview? And I totally understand. You're like, yes, you should, because, you always want to look, professional. When I was interviewing for the insurance company, do you think I suited and tied up? Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the type of culture that the insurance company, has. When I was in front of Snapchat, I didn't wear a suit and tie. I wore a jacket, but I didn't wear a tie. And actually, when I before this, when I joined another SaaS company, I asked my recruiter. It was in like August. I was sweating like crazy because I had to go use the subway in New York. And I texted him. I'm like, dude, there's people wearing shorts and playing ping pong, and I'm in like a full suit. And he literally texted me, dude, lose the tie. So I lost the tie. And one of the first things I did with one of the people, by the way, the guy that was interviewing me, the VP of operations, was wearing a, shorts. And I'm like, first off, thank you so much for wearing shorts. I was able to get rid of this tie, and we immediately like connected. He's just like, oh, this guy is, also like cool and laid back, kind of like the culture here. So I would recommend also going on Glassdoor. Hopefully, if it's like a bigger company or they have at least like a few hundred reviews, it really helps a lot. And, that's just another tip that I would want to give everybody. And if you have any questions about, hey, what should the dress code be, reach out to your recruiter if you do. If not, just default to, I agree with Brad, just wear the suit and tie. But, sometimes it gives, I forgot what the word is, but like hidden competency triggers, just like, you don't say it, but it's like, oh, this guy, he gets it, or she gets it. Like, he's, I'm not saying if I showed up in an undershirt, it would show good. That's not what I'm saying. But, there's some ways that you could kind of say that you are with the culture without actually saying that you're with the culture in other ways. Even the way that I answered questions with the insurance company was maybe a little bit more BA, high level corporate versus, and not so much like I'm still being myself, right? But I'm just approaching how I answer questions a little differently, so that when I would Snapchat, I'm a little bit more, free form like this, like, I mean, not so much, but I don't know. It's just like maybe a different mindset when you approach those different interviews that might be helpful. So that's just another thing.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. And, and that's a tough one because you never know what's coming, and you could ask the recruiter. and you might even want to pull off like something clever, like wear a jacket, but then if you take off the jacket, now you're wearing, business casual or whatnot, or, it's kind of maybe you got a t-shirt on under the jacket kind of thing. But, because you do want to mesh with their culture and fortunate or unfortunate, attire does, say a lot about a person, or, it's an impression that you get, it's a perception. And if you're all, business attire, all corporate-y, and they just don't have that style, that could be a turnoff for them. So, I think it's tough. I think you're right, though. Ask the recruiter, when somebody sends, the interview invitation, I don't think it's the worst question on earth, because it's a pretty, I think, reasonable topic right now, where there's a big shift, and there's a big culture shift in the business world, especially the tech business world, and what attire you should or shouldn't be wearing. So, I think it's a fair question to pose to the recruiter, or even the person who sent you the interview invite from HR, just to, my worst fear is showing up for the interview and they're all suit and tied, and then you come in with a t-shirt and it's like, what just happened?
That's why I say always default to what you're saying, suit and tie, Brad, unless otherwise. Like, if you could somehow make the person connect with you a little bit more, like just internally in their head, say, just give a little nod, like, oh, okay, this guy's cool, or this girl's cool. That's kind of what I was going for. And don't be fake. Like, I'm still answering questions the same way, but maybe I'm a little more relaxed, or I'm a little bit more thoughtful with how I'm doing it. But again, that's more of a mindset. Maybe it's not a big deal, but I wanted to give as many tips as possible just to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we've answered a ton of questions here, and I know we're a little bit over on time, and I definitely appreciate you being here for the community. And, continually, I saw you on Facebook today answering questions, and that's huge. You're incredible. I think you really brought impact to the community today, and I certainly appreciate that. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask them on this thread. You can mention us and ask questions. Anything you've got, the community's always here. The Talent Stacker Ohana is always right in front of you. You just have to ask. So I'm sure that we will do more in the future. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you. We should definitely have more talks, whether they're like this or about a specific topic. And maybe we'll bring you on in a few months and you can tell us, what's going down and like how things are changing over time. Yeah,
absolutely. And, guys, since I'm not on Facebook that much, hopefully I will be, just to check in and say hello and everything, and hopefully help out. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn basically every day. So, feel free to reach out to me if you, wanted to. So just wanted to put that out there in case. I know people message me on Facebook and it's like, oh, I haven't been there for a while. So just a heads up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will talk to you all soon.
Thanks, guys.